So currently, we are going on day 23 of the United States government being shut down. This means millions of people are feeling the effects. Tens and hundreds of thousands of workers are not getting paid. We are seeing delays at airports. There's a possibility that SNAP beneficiaries will not receive any benefits come November 1st. And there's still the possibility that our U.S. military does not get paid, even though they are essential for keeping us safe right here at home. But there is now talks and reports there's a new bill out. This bill could open up the federal government, or what it could do is just pay those essential workers, meaning TSA agents and even our U.S. military. Look at this. It says Senator Young introduces act to ensure people are paid during shutdowns. Now, how exactly would this work? Well, look at this right here. It says, officials say this legislation would appropriate funds to pay and allowances of accepted federal employees for periods of work performed during a lapse in appropriations and for other purposes. Accepted workers are federal employees who must continue working during a lapse in appropriations because their duties are legally authorized to continue performing services to protect life, property, and or to ensure national security. Okay, well, this is what's going on today. Says the GOP attempts to squeeze Democrats with vote to pay essential workers, including troops and TSA agents. That vote is expected to happen today. Let's read this. It says Senate GOP leaders are again shaking up their strategy as they look for more ways to pressure Democrats to end a 3-week stalemate over government funding, this time with the vote that would keep paychecks flowing to essential workers. Here's the problem. Democrats, however, are expected to widely reject the measure, leaving Congress no closer to resolving what is now the second longest government shutdown in history. Okay. What is happening right now is extremely important, okay, for several different reasons. Number one, the reason why this is so important is because all the different ideas and proposals that are currently on the table, okay, and this is one of them. These are things that, according to reports, according to experts, lawmakers are going to bring back to the table once the federal government is shut, or once we're open. We're currently shut down. So think about this. This proposal to pay essential workers during times of a lapse of appropriations. This may not happen in this shutdown, but come next year, you better bet this is something that they're going to have. The money that was used by the Trump administration to pay for WIC, which is kind of a company underneath SNAP benefits. Well, guess what? That is something that is going to be on the table as well. Is how can we ensure that all WIC recipients do not see a lapse in appropriations? Well, guess what's next? Because now they're talking about the troops and the TSA agents. Well, the payment's going to come on November 1st. Guess what else is supposed to come out on November 1st? SNAP benefits. We know 40 plus million people would not receive their benefits come November 1st. If 40 million households do not receive their SNAP benefits, whether it's $150 a month or $1,200 a month, it doesn't matter. You would not receive a penny. That is a huge problem because we then are going to see millions of families struggle to put food on the table. That means millions of families are going to have to go and find a food bank that would give them some food. Food banks are going to go empty. They're already looking rather, it's bare, but they're saying that they could be empty in the very near future. That's where we're at. Let's keep reading this. It says the Senate will vote Thursday on a bill that would require the government to pay workers deemed essential and required to work during the lapse, including those in the U.S. military, Border Patrol, and Transportation Security Administration, from the Treasury Department's coffers during a shutdown. That vote comes a day before millions of federal workers miss their first full paycheck and is tended to cause maximum political pain for Democrats on day 23 of the political standoff. Okay, here's where things are at though. Republicans are going to put this bill on the floor of the Senate. It will come to a vote. It will likely fail. There's a couple key pieces here though. Okay, first off, okay, it would require the government to pay workers deemed essential. This is going to be one of the holdups, even if Democrats and Republicans like the idea of paying essential workers. What is deemed as their essential worker? That's the big question that some Democrats and some Republicans don't agree on, is that all employees should be essential, but yet they're not. Some are furloughed. Okay, we got over 700,000 workers furloughed, meaning their job wasn't essential. And the Trump administration even said that there's a very good chance we are going to get rid of some of these furloughed workers. Their job may never come back because, again, they're not essential. Why do we need somebody or a position that is not essential when we could just pay somebody else a little bit more and they take on the role and responsibility? That's essentially what we're seeing with a lot of these bigger tech companies. Microsoft, Amazon, Apple, they're all doing it. Meta, they're taking people from other positions and they're giving them and splitting up roles and responsibilities of one position to several and giving everyone a little bit of a boost in their wages. But they come out ahead. They're saving money. Let's keep reading this though. Okay? It says, but Democrats say they oppose any bill that does not pay all federal workers and will instead propose a countermeasure on Thursday that would ensure furloughed workers too would be paid. It's not clear that the measure will receive a vote, though even if it does, it would fail because it needs 60 votes to advance. The GOP's measure too is likely to fall short of that 60 vote threshold. Right now, we have both Republicans. They are pretty much saying that they are going to band together. They're not going to vote unless they're not going to do anything really until the federal government's open. And then Democrats say, well, we are not going to vote to open up the federal government until you ensure that the Obamacare subsidies are extended. They expire at the end of 2025. So that's the big issue right now. Now, I wish I could tell you that things are going to get better, that these bills, they're going to go through, we're going to see the federal government open, but unfortunately that's not the case. On Friday, which is tomorrow, we are going to see the first, this is the first paycheck, this is the first, or would be full paycheck that government employees are going to miss. This is going to be huge, okay? Think about this for a second. If you got paid, let's say once a month or every 2 weeks, whatever it is, okay? You get paid every 2 weeks, but yet tomorrow you don't get paid because your boss says, sorry, we just don't have the money, but don't worry, there's a good chance I'm going to get you in 2 weeks. What normally happens is you shut down because you feel like, well, why would I even go into work when I'm still owed this money from 2 weeks ago? That's where federal employees are at. They don't want to go into work. They don't want to go in with, even though they know if they go in, they will be paid eventually, but they need to find a way to make money today. I was talking to a friend of mine. This guy, his wife works for the federal government. Okay, now I don't want to say too much about him anyway, but so his wife works for the federal government. She is deemed essential, and his daughter, I believe, works for the federal government as well. She is not essential, so she's been laid off, or technically laid off. Here's the thing: his wife is deemed essential, has to continue going into work. Here's the problem: she's been doing this for several weeks. Okay, she's not going to be getting paid. She knows she will get paid eventually, but the problem is they have bills that need to be paid now. They have a mortgage, they have a car payment, they have insurance, they have student loans that they need to pay. Okay? All these things, medical bills. They have to pay these things, and yet they're not getting paid. So guess what she's doing? Okay? she has started a kind of a side business that she is going to work. Here's the interesting thing. That side business is now making more per day, and she just started this about 3 weeks ago. Like 2 to 3 weeks ago. This side business is now making more per day than she makes working for the federal government. Now, my friend has to decide. Do they double down on this? Do they put some money behind it and grow this potential side business? Or do they just let it go away and she continues to go to work? Okay? That's where they're at right now, because it is now going to take more than her available time after work to run this side business. And yet she's making more money there. There's a very good chance she quits her job at the federal government and starts doing the side business full time because it's now making more money. Quite a bit more money. So I just wanted to share that story because that's where people are at. Is how am I supposed to live? How am I supposed to pay for my bills, put food on the table, if I'm not even getting paid? So we're going to see what happens. I want to read this last little bit to you. I want to read these quotes. It says, I don't like the bill because it gives the president the ability to decide who's essential and who's not. That's what I'm telling you. That's one of the big holdups Democrats are going to have. It says, and what we see is he is using this in a political and punitive way. It says, we're going to cancel Democratic programs. We're going to send troops to Democratic cities. He would use this discretionary power to punish some and reward others. It says, we want to pay all federal workers. This is from Senator Bernie Sanders. He says, but it's a deep concern about the bill. Now, last thing, I used to be a civil servant. I care a lot about them, but you can't just choose a few and not everybody, especially if Trump is making the decision. They all deserve paychecks. And I think we can agree that, yes, if you are working, whether you work for the federal government or you work for a private company, you work the hours, you should get paid for those hours. That's where we're at. But does this bill pass? That, honestly, I just don't know. But there will be a vote today. We'll see what happens. And I promise I'll fill you in on all the latest news and updates as soon as we get them. But that is what we know as of today. So again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.